So, like always, appreciate you guys coming out and covering Penn State football. We appreciate it. This will be our 17th, whiteout, which is really cool. First one was in 2007 against Notre Dame. We need the fans to arrive early and be loud, have a full stadium, before kickoff. Very similar to what we did at West Virginia. Do you not agree with that? Your face is...
No, I was thinking of something. I think it's the 15th.
There was a student whiteout,
Yeah.
I think Purdue.
It doesn't matter. I was just, because I'm writing it, I just wanted to make sure.
So I got bad information, is what you're saying.
You want to start over?
No.
She could be wrong too.
No,
She could be wrong too.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. So the loser between you and Kincaid's got 5 push-ups.
The press release said 15.
I love it.
Yeah, that press release is wrong.
Who gave the press release out?
Me.
So you got 5 push-ups either way right now. The question is it 5 or 10? We're welcoming CBS to Beaver Stadiums for the first time since 1990.
Sure.
Trace McSorley and Grant Haley are honorary captains. They're actually in the weight room right now getting a workout in. As you guys know, it's great to see them. They're beloved. They're beloved in Penn State history, in my opinion. I know they are in our building. You talk about the Illinois game and just some kind of thoughts on that game and some statistics that we talk about every week. We won the turnover battle, which was really the story of the game. We did not win the explosive play battle. We won the third down battle. We did not win the third down battle. The sack battle, we did win. Drive start battle, we won. And the penalty battle, we did not win. Players of the game, on offense, Hunter Norzat. On defense, we gave it really to all the turnover guys. Dom DeLuca caused the fumble, Kobe King, Abdul Carter, Daquan Hardy, Johnny Dixon, and Cam Miller. Special teams was Malik McLean, who's really done a nice job and has been impressive on special teams. Is making an impact and making a difference there, which is huge for us. And then D-Squad Players of the Week, on offense, Dom Ruley and Jake Spencer. On defense, Colin Dinkins and Winston Yates. And then on special teams, Ethan Black. Just some overall notes from the game. Positives, went on the road and found a way to get a win, a Big Ten win on the road. Again, we're experts at that. 5 turnovers on defense, 4 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. Everybody's talking about that, and that is deservedly so, but also the fact that we had 0 turnovers on offense is just as important. I think the fact that we're playing a lot of guys, I think, has been very important for us. Getting a lot of guys in games. We had 62 guys play in that game. I thought we did a much better job compared to earlier in the season. Of handling our business on offense and defense from a game management standpoint. So having all 3 timeouts at the end of the first half was huge. We were able to use 2 timeouts on defense to get the ball back for our offense, and had a timeout available and went down and scored a field goal right before the half, which was big. Third quarter shutout, not only a third quarter shutout in that game, but we have not given up a point this year in the third quarter. Audrey?
Sorry, I was typing.
Just checking my facts. And then I thought really good complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams. Areas for growth, we got to eliminate the penalties. I don't really like any penalties, but specifically the ones that we focus on the most are the pre-snap penalties, which to me are focus penalties, and then the post-snap penalties that are discipline penalties. There's going to be penalties that happen during a play. I don't really like any of them, but you can live with them. The pre-snap focus and the post-snap discipline ones we got to eliminate. Starting fast, something that we did really well the previous games. We got to get back to that. Points off turnovers. was good, but I think we can be better there. We need to score more touchdowns, especially with the field position that we got. And then obviously we got to be more explosive. So kind of moving on to Iowa. Obviously a ton of respect for the University of Iowa, their football program, the history and traditions there. Coach Ferentz has been there forever and done a phenomenal job. 34th year at Iowa, 25th as the head coach, which is very, very unusual in today's college football. So it's cool to see. The offensive coordinator, Brian Ferentz, in his 7th year as the offensive coordinator, they're a multiple pro-style system. Multiple personnel groups, multiple formations, motions, and shifts. Guys that we've been impressed with, the running back number 4, LaShawn Williams, the running back number 9, Jazion Patterson, and then the guy that we're familiar with, the tight end number 83, Eric All. Defensively, Phil Parker, again, another guy who's been doing it forever, and the level of consistency is impressive. Is really impressive. His 12th year as the defensive coordinator, 25th year at Iowa overall. They are a base defense. They do what they do, and they do it extremely well, and have been doing it a long time. There's obviously some subtle changes, but whether it is 2023 or whether it's 2014, you put the tape on, and it's Iowa playing Iowa defense the way they play it, and again at a high level and been impressive. Guys that we're impressed with is Cooper DeJean. I really am impressed by this young man. Not only how he plays on defense, but also the impact that he makes on special teams as a returner, as a gunner, or bullet, depending on how you term it. He's an impressive football player. Number 13, Joe Evans, the defensive end. The defensive tackle, number 85, Logan Lee. Linebacker, number 34, Jay Higgins. And then safety, number 30, Quentin Schulte. Those guys are playing at a really, really high level. And then you talk about special teams. Been impressed with their punter, Torrey Taylor. Their kick returner, number 21, Caden Weegan, and then their punt returner, again, like we've talked about, number 3, Cooper DeJean. So looking forward to the opportunity to play the University of Iowa. Looking forward to practice today as well, and should be another great game between two really well-respected historical Big Ten programs. So open up to questions.
All right, we'll start with Johnny McGonigal, and then Rich, you're on deck.
Has anybody fact-checked yet, if we have the data?
2004 was an all-student whiteout?
Yeah, we're not counting that. You keep
Like
saying
total
that.
whiteout?
Yeah, you keep saying, like, the full stadium whiteout.
It'll be 15 this Saturday.
It's 15.
15 this Saturday.
We had a random.
And that's what the release
That's
says.
10.
We had a random-
Right here, on the dice.
Wow.
You got 10 for sure.
Sorry.
And I gotta do 5, because I gotta own it, because I should fact-check. Everybody's held accountable around here. Question, sorry, guys.
All good. Then James, with Drew starting his first whiteout, how much do you think last year's experience of him playing a couple drives against Minnesota, and then even the West Virginia game to open the season, how much do you think that might help him handle some of the pressure that could come along, with the environment and the atmosphere that the whiteouts can represent?
Yeah, I think we're really done with the whole first time stuff, first stripe out, first, helmet stripe, first, we're done talking about that stuff. He had a first start, we're past that. He had a first road start, we're past that. We're, first home game, we're past that. Now he is no longer kind of going through the first. We are very appreciative of having one of the best environments in all of sports, and we're very appreciative of the whiteout and what it means for this community and the state, and really for college football. I want our players and our fans to take 30 seconds, in the beginning and take it all in, but then after that it's about execution. So whether it's an orange out, a black out, a white out, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to football and executing plays and playing well. So, I understand your question, but we're past that. We're past the first, for Drew, and we're now kind of taking the next step in terms of let's go out and consistently play well as a team.
We'll go to Rich Scarcella, and then Mark, you're on deck.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Rich. Good, man. How are you?
Good. You have talked a lot about explosive plays. You mentioned in your opening remarks that you need to have more. 2 runs of 20-plus yards so far in 3 games. What do you have to do to increase the number of explosive plays? And what do you have to do to get more than the 2 runs of 20-plus yards that you've had?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think most importantly, we got to consistently show people that we can throw the ball over their heads, because right now there's no doubt about it. Although I think Drew has shown what he's able to do and what he's capable of, I still think people are going to say to themselves, we can't allow Katron and Nick to beat us. I think that's the approach you got to take based on just more evidence of that. So based on that, people are game planning and saying, what do we have to do in every formation and in every personnel group to have the numbers to give us the advantage? And then once we prove on a consistent basis that if you're going to do that, that we can take advantage of it by throwing for a high percentage, by making people miss and creating explosives on the perimeter. And then obviously being able to also, like I said in the beginning, throw it over their heads, then now people are really having to make a choice because there's enough evidence of both that they're still going to have to make a choice, of how they're going to defend us. But right now, I think it's been very obvious that over the first 3 weeks that people are saying, their defensive game plan is going to be based on stopping our running game. And that is a combination of wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends, O-line protection, running backs protection. That's all of it, so that we can show that we can consistently beat you in the passing game and cause real significant problems for you if you choose to play that way. So, to me, that's an exciting thing. That's an opportunity for us in the passing game. We've shown signs of it. We got to do it more consistently.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich, and then Frank, you're on deck.
Hey, James, thanks for doing this again today.
Thank you.
Following up on Rich's question, how has Nick Singleton then responded to just having fewer opportunities for those explosive plays, and how do you assess his first 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think those guys have been great. I mean, I also think in the Big Ten, you look at statistically, we play good defense around here. So there's going to be games where we got to grind it out. I mean, you guys know Iowa. This is probably going to be another one of those games where we're going to have to grind it out. It's going to be a 4-quarter game. You look at their defensive coordinator and what he's been able to do historically, and then the style of how they play on offense. It's going to be one of those Big Ten grinded out games. So for me, I'm not really overly concerned with that. We got to find ways to win. And there's going to be weeks where we're super explosive based on the opportunities that the defense gives us and the plays that we make. And there's going to be other weeks where we got to grind it out and do it in a more old-fashioned sense. Which I know everybody loves that old-fashioned ball. We may put some fullbacks out there. I got a reaction in the back of the room. I think that's one of the things that I've been impressed with is the maturity of this team and understanding that's how football works, major college football. I think a perfect example is not just the running backs, but the tight ends. We had that 1 week where they didn't get many touches, and I didn't hear a word out of the tight ends. They know if we do our jobs that those opportunities will come. There's going to be some weeks where they have 20 catches, and there's going to be some weeks where the running backs have 30 carries. It really just depends on the week and how the game plays out. So with team success comes individual recognition. I think they're in the meetings as well. They see how people are trying to defend us. They go against a really good defense. Our defense at practice every single day. So I think our coaches and our players understand that. Do our coaches want more? Do the players want more? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I think most importantly is, are we finding ways to win? And there's going to be a ton of different ways that we're going to have to do that throughout the season.
Let's go to Frank Bodani and Mike Gross. You're on deck.
Hey, good afternoon, James.
Hey, Frank. Good.
I wanted to ask you about your pass rush.
Are you a gel or a moose guy?
That would be gel.
Nice.
Moose was 1980s, I think.
Oh yeah, as you can tell, I have no reference on the age, the dates of when things were relevant for hair product.
No use for either, right?
None.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Awesome. Pass rush. Your top 3 edge rushers, Chop, Denai, Adisa, I think they only have a half a sack between them. Are those guys doing what you expect? Or the numbers a little misleading? What's the deal from your perspective on that so far?
Yeah, I think we're playing really good team defense. And typically what happens is the 5 turnovers, most of them are a result of quarterbacks getting the ball out of your hands quicker. Typically, you're going to have one or the other. You're going to have sacks or turnovers. Again, no different than the questions about the running game and things like that. I think our defense understands and respects, and I know our DBs respect the fact that most of those turnovers came as a result of pressuring the quarterback. So again, for us, it's about what do we have to do to win games. And sometimes that's going to equate to gaudy statistics at one position or another. We'll come in another week and you guys are saying, well, we had 6 sacks, but we didn't have any interceptions. Why not? Again, these things usually are complementary pieces, if that makes sense. So, do we want a perfect game where we have it all at the end? Yes. But again, I think our coaches and our defense do a good job of talking about and explaining and respecting what it takes to win. And the stats are usually used to reinforce what it takes to win or areas that we need to improve. It's not about the stats as an end-all be-all. And I think the other things that our guys have understood that we've spent a lot of time talking about, as well as had some NFL scouts talk about, true football people, the stats are important, but they're watching how you play the game and are you doing your job. How many times does the defensive end get a tackle for a loss because the D tackle spiked and got penetration in the B gap? The D tackle may get no credit in the stat form, but everybody knows that D tackle created the tackle for a loss for the other D tackle or for the defensive end. So for us, it's studying football and understanding how did you grade out and how well did you play? And some weeks that's going to equate to a ton of stats. Some weeks that's not. Sometimes you're going to get a sack and you didn't necessarily do your job. You spiked into the B gap and you're supposed to be into the C gap. Is that a good play? You know, it's a good play when you make the sack. It's not a good play when the ball finds the C gap, the gap you're supposed to be in. We go for it on 4th down. Is that a good decision? If we pick up the 4th down, it's a good decision. If we don't, it's a bad decision. So I think it really matters how are you looking at the game and how are you viewing the game. And that's where I think you have to be careful, because whether it's PFF or whether it's somebody grading your tape, that's hard to do if you don't know exactly what's being asked. It's amazing how many times we'll do that when we're breaking film down. You're like, wow, this is an unbelievable blitz they're running right here. They ran 2 guys through the B gap, and that's a challenge for us because that goes against rules. Well, is it a great schemer they're running, or did they make a mistake? You know, and they benefited from the mistake. So it's just a fine line for us, and for us, we want to play good, sound, clean football. And if the stats come with that, great. If not, again, back to the statement I made earlier, you know, with team success comes individual recognition.
Let's go to Mike Gross.
Hi, James. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. This is a little off script, but it's something that I'm genuinely curious about your reaction to.
Good, I'm excited about it.
You're the best football player in the world right now, at least according to me and according to a lot of people, is a guy that you coached. And I wonder what how you think and how you feel about what Micah has become, not only as a player, but just as a competitor and just an unbelievably relentless force in the game.
Yeah, you know, the first thing it does, it makes me think about, I wish we had him for that 3rd year rather than canceling the football season. But I'm proud of him. You know, I'm really proud of him for a lot of different reasons, and football is one of them, but it's a small one. He came and spoke to the team 2 weeks ago, I think, and just did a phenomenal job and talked about the game, but talked specifically about Penn State and this community. He sent me and Brent Pry just kind of out of nowhere the other day a beautiful, heartfelt, thoughtful message. No one talks about, like, I think there was a stat that went out the other day about, I think he's in the top 10 all-time sacks for the Dallas Cowboys, you know, in year 2 or whatever it is, or, you know. But no one he gets very little credit for graduating from Penn State in 3 years. I see on social media how frugal he is. I love that. You know, I used to show the guys videos of Ocho Cinco. One of the most brilliant things ever is Ocho Cinco wore fake jewelry the entire time he was in the NFL. Why? Because when you're in the NFL and you wear fake jewelry, everybody assumes it's real, and he's not wasting money on things that don't really matter. I worry about that a little bit in today's day and age. I'm a supporter of NIL, very much so. But I also worry that it sets up unrealistic expectations of how hard it is to earn $1. And I think a lot of times when you're the head football coach and you talk about things like that, people don't want to hear it from me and people in my position, but I worry about that. I hear stories about our guys wasting money on haircuts or turning down NIL opportunities that they don't think pay enough. I worry about it. I worry about unrealistic expectations of how hard it is to earn a dollar in our country and in our world, and I want our guys to appreciate that. I think Mike is a great example, because I think part of our responsibility as college football coaches that I take very serious is that when our guys leave here, that they're equipped and ready to take care of themselves and their families for the next 40 years. And I think NIL can be a positive in teaching them lessons about how to manage their money. And I think Micah is a great example of that. He's got more money than most people will ever dream of, but he's complaining about how much a haircut costs on social media, you know. So I'm super proud of him. I'm super proud of the young man that we recruited really from 9th grade that took us on a roller coaster ride during his recruiting process. We had some tough love when he was here. And he looks back at all this stuff with such appreciation now. He's always been super thoughtful. I loved how he embraced the whole Penn State experience. You would not find a bigger supporter of our wrestling program, because he loved how competitive they were and what Cale has built here. He worked out with those guys. I don't know if you guys know this. He's passionate bowler, believes that he can be a professional bowler. Loves to play chess. He's just, I'm proud of him. He's growing up to be a really well-rounded individual, and although he's having a ridiculous amount of success when it comes to football, I think that's going to be just a small part of Micah's story, and I'm very proud of him.
We'll now go to the room. Please raise your hand, and we'll bring a mic to you. We'll start with Mark over here.
Hey James, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. The 3 interceptions your cornerbacks had were kind of special plays. They weren't just like gimme balls that were thrown to them. How much of that is innate ability, the sort of stuff that you look for when recruiting, and how much of that is kind of coached into them?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. I think number one, those guys are playing at a really high level. I also would say if you look at most of those guys during the recruiting process and in high school were guys that played both ways. And we talk about the importance of recruiting guys that literally, if you watched on tape, you know, you'd say, well, this guy could be recruited as a wide receiver. Like, offensive linemen that we recruit should be dominant defensive linemen. But I also think what Terry Smith specifically and Anthony Poindexter have done in recruiting, coaching, and developing DBs is second to none. Penn State has an unbelievable history, not only on the football field with winning and success in the NFL draft and All-Americans, but for whatever reason, that was a position that we had not had a real strong history. And Terry specifically and Dex have changed that, So to see our guys playing the way they're playing right now, making plays on the ball, being a part of the run game and the run fits, playing on special teams, a ton of guys now playing in the NFL. I think that's harder than people realize. It's to change kind of a historical data and to change a narrative is harder to do than I think a lot of people realize. And Terry's been able to do that. He's really done that from the beginning. Again, we talk about coming to Penn State at a tough time, and we were able to change the narrative of how people were talking about Penn State at that time. Terry's been a part of all of those things. He's a great coach. He's a great recruiter. He's a great husband and father. He's been a great sounding board for me. He coaches his guys hard, but I think does it in a way where he never crosses the line and has their respect. It's amazing how much honesty there is in that room. I mean, very blunt, direct honesty that he has created that culture in that room, not just from him, but player to player, which he's created that culture in that room, which I think is probably more important than ever. And I don't see as much of that in today's day and age, where the players will have honest conversations with each other. They all want to be leaders by example and not necessarily have honest, truthful conversations with each other. So it is great to see, and the players that you mentioned should get a ton of credit. And specifically, you know, we talk about Cam, Johnny, and Day-Day. And obviously coming into the season and really throughout the season as well. Kalen, people aren't throwing to Kalen. And that's a whole nother conversation we can have with the respect that he has learned, that he has earned in this conference, but also nationally. But there's a ton of credit that goes to Terry Smith as a letterman and a constant on our staff here at Penn State, and then also Anthony Poindexter. Those guys have been awesome and have been great complementary pieces to each other.
In the back left, Andrew.
Andrew. Back there with the audio guys. You had mentioned in your opening statement about Iowa's experience at coaching and how they've been there for a long time. You've seen Iowa a lot, but coaches Yurcich and Diaz don't have a lot of games against Iowa. How does that juxtaposition work out when you're game prepping for a team that you've seen a lot and they've seen very little?
Well, first of all, it's almost like opening on the road in the Big Ten. We've played Iowa more than anybody. Maybe you could make the argument part of maybe the best team in the West over our time here at Penn State. You can make that argument. So again, we love that, and we're appreciative of the Big Ten, for that. I know it's random. But I think at the end of the day, Manny and Mike and Stacy have had an opportunity to not only see them from playing them, but also we got a ton of film. And I would also say specifically with Iowa, they are who they are, and they take tremendous pride in their identity and doing it well. So you know what you're going to get from them. And again, I mean that as a major compliment. They're going to have wrinkles that are going to cause you challenges every year, but they do what they do, and they do it well, and it aligns with their identity. So, I don't think it takes very long to get accustomed to who they are and their style of football. I think there's enough film and evidence out there for our coordinators as well as the rest of our staff.
John?
Hey James, how are you?
Good, John.
Doing good. Keandre Lambert-Smith, how would you evaluate how he's done from a consistency standpoint this year, with that being an emphasis obviously coming into the season?
Yeah, really well. Obviously we all saw there was an opportunity to get him a ball, which would have been an explosive play and a touchdown on Saturday. When you're a wide out or a running back, and you're going to get your touches in our offense, but you can get that one explosive play, if not two explosive plays a game, it changes everything, right? It changes the complexion of the game. It changes the stats, which you guys are big on stats in this press conference today. But it changes all those things, right? So I've just been really proud of Keandre, his growth on the field, on game days, his maturity, his growth, daily at practice, in how he works and how he leads by example, how he makes plays consistently, how he is with contested catches going against some of the best DBs in the country every single day. Iron sharpens iron. How he is off the field in terms of his grades and graduation. I've been very pleased with his consistency as a young man and as a football player. And again, I think you're going to continue to see him make big plays for us and have a big year. There's no doubt about it that, whether it's tight ends you guys mentioned, or whether it's Keandre, or whether it's our running backs, we got to get those guys touches, and as many touches as we can, because when that happens, usually good things follow. So, we go into it each week with that mindset, where we got to get these guys touches. But again, based on what the defense does, our plan was to get, was it game one where Theo and Ty didn't get a lot of touches? Am I right? Right. Our plan was not, to not get those guys the ball. Our plan was to get them the ball. And then that creates opportunities, whether it's for Keandre or somebody else. That's just how it goes. That's how the game goes. But for us, I think when you look at the end of the season and take the whole thing into consideration, he's going to make his plays and he's going to get his touches, and that's important to us and that's important to him. But again, I also think Keandre's gotten to a point where he's mature enough to understand how it all fits together and putting the team first, and what the NFL scouts and what the GMs are truly looking for, and what Iowa is evaluating when they watch tape. Those are the things that matter the most.
In the middle, Max.
Yeah, I guess today's a good day for broad-ranging position group questions. You kind of segued into tight ends, not from a usage standpoint, as I know, and we love to talk about, but just this program for a while has produced guys who have had long NFL careers. Go back to Jesse, Mike, Pat. Is that an emphasis that you had on that position group when you came here, or is it just kind of worked out that way?
No, I'm a big believer in the tight end position having a chance to be a differentiator for you in college football now, especially when with their true tight ends that are able to be used in both the pass and the running game, so people can't put them in the categories. They become mismatches there. And then I think if you look at the guys that we've had at that position coaching, I think Ty Howell's a great example of that. Have done a great job of continuing to build on that. I think when you talk about spreading the wealth and statistics, I think last year with Brenton Strange and Theo and Tyler's a great example of that, right? And you talk about stats and you talk about impacting a game. I would say that Brenton Strange could have been in a situation where he had a few more touches, but we played 3 tight ends, and I think Brenton still ended up getting drafted where? What round? Second round. So again, I think the stats are helpful and they're easy to find, and they're kind of a cheat sheet. But if you're studying football and real football and what Brenton Strange brought to our offense in the run and the pass game, that is valuable. And that's valuable at the college level. And having a room like that is, I think, going to be really important to us. It's allowed us to be balanced in the run and the pass game. It's allowed us to be multiple, which can be really challenging in terms of being able to get into heavy sets and being able to get into spread sets. So yeah, it's part of our big picture plan and model here, and that's why we're always going to recruit that position hard and heavy, because not only do they help you on offense, they help you on special teams as well. And I think we've had a model that's worked for us, but also worked for young men as well in terms of their careers.
In the back, T. Frank.
Hey James, straight back.
Hey T.
I have another kind of big picture question on that. Iowa's been doing what Iowa does for a long time. You mentioned that, we talk about that every year. But you've been here for 10 years. You have guideposts and things that you believe in for program building.
What was the term you said?
Guideposts.
Guideposts, thank you.
Yeah, things that you want to do with your program.
I just didn't hear you. I know what it means.
Gotcha, sorry. I'm also an over-communicator.
That's good. Over-clarifier, as my wife would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you stay true to those, but also change things up enough that you're not going into Iowa and you're playing Iowa the same way you played them last year, and they're playing you the same way they played last year?
Well, I think one of the things that's really important, whether it's self-scouting your offense, defense, and special teams week to week, but also self-scouting your program and say, okay, we are going to have some tweaks and off-season studies and things that we're going to do to grow and get better, is really important, especially when you talk about kind of where we have been. And taking that next step. So those things are really important. But those things have to align with your culture, and they have to align with your identity and what you're trying to do. Because I think what happens is sometimes people say, okay, we need to make these changes, but they don't align with your culture, they don't align with your identity, and now you have problems. The bullets don't match. You know, you can't connect the dots, and it seems inconsistent to the players, and that's where I think you can have some real challenges and problems. So I think that's really starts with two things, and that's hiring and recruiting, making sure that you're hiring the right people in the building and recruiting the right people into the locker room. And that you're transparent with them on what they're signing up for. And then saying, okay, they have to understand how to blend within the culture and align kind of with the identity, but then also, allow a Manny Diaz to be Manny Diaz and play to his strengths and allow his strengths and experiences to add value to our overall organization. Be able to have a Drew that we talked about, Drew Aller, and bring him into our organization, and like we talked about maybe a week or two ago, not put restrictions on Drew that it limits his development and his ability to be a unique player. Those things are really important. Does Drew fit our culture, and does he align and agree with how we do things and what our identity is? And then do we create an environment that allows the coaches and players to become the best versions of themselves and thrive in this culture and thrive in this identity, which is really what we're trying to do, and I think everybody's trying to do, every organization is ultimately trying to do. And that's kind of that fine balancing act between the two.
We got time for two more. Audrey?
This seems long today. Or is it just my answers?
Audrey, go ahead.
I asked you Saturday about the offensive line, kind of at a first.
Usually if I talk long, though, that means less questions. It seems long and long today.
We are at 5, and we are at 11 total right now.
Audrey.
You asked about the offensive. I asked about the offensive line on Saturday. Now that you had a chance to go back and watch the film, what did you think about the way they played, particularly in the first half?
Yeah, I think number one, I think we're doing some really good things, and we're playing a lot of guys, and there's signs of being a really physical unit with the offensive line and tight ends. I would also say, going back to the film and really in the week leading up to the game, we had a ton of respect for Illinois and their front. And I would say after the game, we felt the same way. I think they got a real front seven, and I think they got some guys up there that can cause a lot of people challenges. So it was a really good opportunity for our O-line and tight ends to go against that, because I think we're going to go against similar fronts, throughout the year. So I think it's probably a good. I'm trying to think of the right term for
litmus
that.
Test.
Huh?
Litmus test?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good litmus test. Thank you. Litmus test for us to see kind of where we're at, where we need to improve, where we need to grow, where our strengths are, where are some weaknesses, because we did have a ton of respect for them coming into the game and felt after the game, the same thing. So, as you guys know, Iowa's built in a similar way. I would say if you look at Illinois and specifically Coach Bielema, he's from that Iowa tree, so there's going to be a lot of similarities, this week as well. But yeah, I think it was a good litmus test for us and a good opportunity to learn from it and build on.
Last question, Todd.
Hello, James.
How we doing?
Doing well, thank you. How is Caden Saunders' redshirt freshman version different than the guy who was on campus with you last season? And moving forward beyond the punt return role, which I'd love to hear you evaluate him there, but what can he add to this offense and maybe grow within this offense down the road here?
Yeah, so I think, he's really starting to build the confidence and acquire the strength. I think that the big thing for him as a true freshman is he was an undersized guy, but was also needed the time in the weight room to develop and get stronger. And now he's an undersized guy, which is fine, but he's got the strength and the confidence to go out and play the way we need him to play. And I think that will just continue to grow throughout his career. I think the way he is catching the ball right now as a punt returner is one of those things that no one's talking about that's underappreciated. Catching the ball in traffic the way he is, with such confidence and with such poise, there's a ton of value. That ball gets to the ground, it rolls another 12 yards. That ball gets to the ground, it hits one of our players. So I think it's a really good starting point to build on. And then on offense, he's shown signs as well in games and in practice that role will continue to grow. But we're very pleased. We're very pleased with Caden. He's been a really good teammate. He's got a huge smile on his face. He's taken a very important role and growing in it. And I think you're going to see he's going to make some big plays for us as a punt returner as well. But I think the first important thing is someone that's going to be a great catcher of the football as a returner, but also a great decision maker as well. When do you catch it? When do you run up in traffic? How do you communicate the short kick so other people on the field are aware as well? He's done a really nice job of that so far, and I think that's an underappreciated thing that's going on our team right now. You watch college football. I watched a play last night. Whether it's kick return, punt return, where decision making. We're going to show that play from last night. We're going to show that to our team today. That's one of those things that's underappreciated in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
15 years.
Saturday's number 15 for the full stadium.
Full
stadium.
Yeah, Greg.
Aubrey, you got me back after last Wednesday's
But your notes were correct.
19 overall.
You counting the partials?
19 including the student whiteout, so 19 overall, yes.
Yeah, counting partials.
Which would be the student?
What's that?
Which would be the student?
The students, which will
Is that
be?
where you're counting partials?
Yeah, partials, students.
I want to make sure we're all seeing the same way. She's saying it's 19.
Yeah, if you count the student ones, yeah, I would go with 19.
Now Portland's going to rank 90.
I will.